Hello guys, I've been getting a lot of questions regarding what mythics to level in game and on Discord as well, so I figured I would try and cover as much of it in this video as possible. I'll leave timestamps in the description or the comments so you can skip around to the part that you're most interested in. So first of all, I just wanted to talk about all of the mythics which you can view under the Heroes tab in game and what they do in general. So I'll keep it brief real quick. Like, for example, we have units that you get pretty early on in the game, such as Shadow Hunter, which is a ranged DPS that doesn't really do much. Same goes for Griffin, he does have CC, ranged DPS. Not a unit you particularly want to level. Exact same case for Frozen Heart. It's a ranged control unit that does do some damage, and it is the only frost damage available to us in the game at the moment. But unfortunately, she's just not the greatest. Scarlet Scythe is a kind of an interesting melee unit who seems to be like one of the only units that doesn't really have a place in the game, as she is pretty underwhelming, but she's one of the first mythics that you do get, and she does help you out in the beginning a bit. Necro, which I would consider a range, not necessarily DPS, I would mostly say he's an economy centered unit or utility due to his ultimate granting you silver and the defense down. Next is Flash. Flash is quite a unique hero. He's one of the only burst damage heroes we have available, but he's kind of hard to get because he's tied to the event boxes, and you typically want to use those shards to get either Blasket or Shimmer. But he's a burst damage melee who is situationally good. We've got Turtle, which is a range CC unit, probably the best CC unit in the game from the Mythics. Better than Frozen Heart and Griffin in majority of the situations. We've got Voodoo, which I would consider her to be a utility unit, especially with the defense down aura and with the level 12 perk being pretty good. But early on, she's kind of not that good. We've got Chanter, which is a range unit, mostly economy or utility focused with the mana for your whole team. And then we've got Croc, a really good melee DPS. We've got Sword Spirit, once again, melee single target DPS. We've got Turn, which is a ranged DPS. Same goes for Dragon. I would say utility, same as Terminator. It's a utility range DPS. And then Coin Up is obviously economy. Holy Envoy, which is a locked based, somewhat with Ascension mechanic, range DPS, and then Blast Cat, which is once again a unit that's tied to events only to acquire, because you do need those mythic boxes. But she is a range DPS and the only hero with true damage in the game at the moment, if I'm not mistaken. She's really good. And Shimmer, who is one of the only execute damage dealers in the game, meaning the lower half of the mob, the more damage she does. But she's also tied to events. So that's just a brief explanation of the units. I want to talk about, like, for newer players, like a buying order, considering that you do not pull any of these from keys. Obviously, if you pull any of them, just skip that step, go to the next one. So first acquisition wise, I would probably recommend getting Croc. Since you will get Terminator as a ranged DPS after 7 days, as long as you play and complete the quests, you will get Terminator for free. So I would definitely recommend getting Croc. He's really strong early on. You will have this skill, which will do AoE, and once you get him level 6, you'll also have his ultimate. He will help you out quite a lot in the early stages. After that, I would recommend, once you have Croc, and then you obviously get Turn for free, I would recommend going for Chanter and Coin afterwards, because the economy playstyle focusing around lucky coins, mana generation, and stuff like that uh, is the superior playstyle because you need lucky coins to make all of these mythics. So obviously having a steady income of them is really important. Hence why we'll go Evo Chanter and Coin Up after we have our damage dealers in Croc and Terminator. After that, you can get Sword Spirit and Dragon. Depending on what stage of the game you are at this point, you should most likely be able to farm common already when you get to the part of buying these units. But once you have Croc, Term, Chanter, and Coin Up, I would recommend getting Sword Spirit and Dragon, depending on whether you are needing a melee unit or a range unit. Now, regarding the leveling of these heroes, I would definitely. Well, they all gain a substantial spike on level 6. So the order you should be aiming to do them in is pretty much the same order that you get them in, which would be Croc for 6 because it unlocks his ultimate, which is a huge chunk of damage, can just like absolutely one tap bosses in the earlier stages as well as deal with massive waves of mobs that are piled up. Um, After that, I would recommend doing Chanter because she both benefits your economy playstyle and more mana with the ultimate. Like it improves quite a bit. So that helps your damage dealers out as well. After Chanter, I would recommend doing Coin Up because the ult just requires less mana, which means you're getting coins more frequently, more rolls, more mythic enhancers is just overall a good choice. And then I would say probably Terminator for level 6, just in case you ever get the destructive devices in game. Um, it's 5 lucky coins that you're saving on ascending him to Form 2, which is where he's going to do his damage. Form 1 Terminator doesn't really do anything, unfortunately. So it's definitely a good choice to have him as your first 6 range DPS if you don't really have anything else. And then after that, let's see. So after we're done with that, I would probably recommend you're at this stage you're definitely soloing common co-op. So no questions about that. Um, if you are struggling with bosses, once you're attempting hard mode, Sword Spirit 6 will help you with unlocking his ultimate. It's a huge chunk of damage. It's pretty good unit. So if you need anything on hard or ranked for bosses, uh, he's definitely good. And if you're just needing more like range DPS, Dragon 6 as it increases the hatch rate. Well, it quite literally doubles it because it's 2.5% and then it goes to 5%. If I'm not mistaken. After that, so we did sword and then we did dragon. Yeah, I mean that is mostly what I would say you do before you like start doing hard or like start completing hard. Um, those are definitely some like a good spot to be at when you first start doing it. Regarding dragon, one thing I did want to mention is if you're only using dragon for the buff, the all allies attack increased by 10%, and you're not finding yourself needing much range damage, you do not have to six this. But because of the hatch chance, if you are actually using him as a range damage dealer, then it is definitely worth the investment. Now, moving on to the next topic, which would be hard mode and getting your 12s. It's mostly going to remain the same order. It's going to follow the order of Croc, as his level 12 skill. Blast Fist is pretty good. This one makes his auto attacks do AoE damage, so he's consistently hitting AoE. Really good, really solid level 12 unit all around. Will help you out majorly in hard mode and in ranked as well. Uh, and then after that, you want to do your chanter because it doubles the mana recovery effect. And once again, same rule as before. Mana equals more damage because more ultimates, more economy, which also equals more damage. So there is just no reason not to do your chanter after you have a DPS already 12. And then once again, it would go coin up. Coin up level 12 is actually really, really good. You have a 20% chance of getting one extra coin. So whenever he does ult, instead of getting one coin, there is a 20% chance you get 2 coins. I don't think I have to explain how good that actually is. And then afterwards, if you are finding yourself struggling with bosses, Sword Spirit 12 is what I would go here. If you're really needing help with bosses on hard mode or in ranked, Sword with the percent HP damage is going to be your best bet. If you are needing range damage, then Term or Dragon, depending on what it is you used as your range DPS. And just as a side note, if you do happen to obtain Shimmer through an event at any point before you have your first 12, Shimmer will take priority over getting a Croc or anything else to 12 because she's simply going to do the most work for you because she only requires purple and blue units to make. And although she is somewhat luck dependent with like having to roll the right forms, but usually while you're stacking her up to 10 stacks, she will always get, well, most likely you will always get a form free shimmer, and she will absolutely just solo hard for you in majority of the cases. So if you do happen to pull a shimmer from an event, it will take priority over your croc. And then you will just proceed as normal. If you did get the shimmer, you'll do shimmer first, and then chanter, then coin up, then sword spirit, or the range DPS, and so on. One thing I will say here, and I will strongly suggest, is not investing resources into Blasket while you're working on soloing hard mode, because Blasket will have very minimal impact on hard progression. She is a unit that's meant for much later in the game, doesn't actually do much in those in hard because yeah, she's simply just not built for it. You have to play around with it too much. A lot of economy is required into it, so definitely would say while you're working on hard, do your other 12s, and then once you're able to solo hard, that's when you can, if you have Blasket, start investing into it. Now, after you can solo hard mode and you have gotten all your 12s and everything else, and you're trying to transition into carrying Nightmare, given that you do have the collectibles recommended to do Nightmare, the general rule is the single best unit for Nightmare carry is going to be Blasket, and it should probably be amongst the first 15s. She's absolutely insane with the true damage that she gets. Once she's ulting, she gains a bunch of attack. You can tell. Every third hit, she does 3000% true damage. She has a good aura buff to go with her. Just a really good unit. She will be your best bet for carrying Nightmare when you only have one unit that you're leveling up as your first 15. She should definitely be the first choice if you're aiming to carry. The order afterwards is completely dependent on units you use in your runs and what kind of game mode you are focusing on or need. However, I would strongly suggest at this point leveling up your mythics to level 6 for the crit damage, as it will be universally beneficial in all game modes. If you guys are not familiar with how the crit damage on the top of my screen here works, is anytime you level up a unit, whether it be the gray ones, the blue ones, the purple ones, the yellow ones, or the mythics, you will gain a percentage of crit damage. Obviously, the higher rarity of the unit that's being leveled up, the higher the percentage that you do get is. So it is universally good to, once you are in a good state in the game, to level up all of your slacky mythics like I have here to level 6 just to get your crit damage up higher, as that will universally help you in all game modes. Now, regarding the 15s, once you already have your blast kit and what you should level up at this point, because I feel like this is where I get majority of the questions, is, hey Scad, I have blast kit 15, what should I level next? Now, in general, Shimmer is a solid choice for a second 15 if you're using her in Nightmare and in rank games, as well as it will majorly improve your consistency in the runs. If you mostly play ranked or do not play her in your Nightmare DPS setup, you can skip this one and then just move to the next ones. But if she's somebody that you do play in ranked and in Nightmare, you can just do what I did and then 15 your Shimmer second. After Shimmer, the third one, or well, in my opinion, Chanter should definitely be your second if you're not doing Shimmer, or it should be your third 15, as she majorly benefits from the attack speed buff that she gains on level 15, as well as Chanter. So, okay, I will explain one mechanic real quick because I feel like some people are not necessarily familiar with this. From what I've noticed, is in this game, whenever a unit attacks something, it gains mana. There is two forms of mana gain. One being passive mana gain, which they will just naturally gain over time. And then active mana gain is what I like to call it, where is if a unit is attacking something, they are gaining additional mana on hit. Now, Chanter, due to the inherent nature of how mana works in this game, attack speed is going to be good on everybody that has a mana bar and a useful ultimate. But Chanter also double dips in this because she has this ability where she gets an 8% chance to restore 9% of her mana, which means the attack speed is even more beneficial on her. That's why I would recommend leveling her over others, because it still plays around the playstyle of you'll get more ultimates for all your units and then more economy generation, which in this game economy is kind of king. And then after your Chanter, definitely recommend doing your coin up. So it should be your next 15 following similar logic as Chanter. He will always be a part of your board. The more attack speed just means more economy, allowing you to finish your board sooner and more consistently, and getting more damage through mythic enhance levels as well. So although it looks like coin up is not doing a lot for you when you just check damage, he is actually contributing a lot to the overall state of your board. Now, at this point, the rest of your units, like getting them to 12 does help with, once again, like the same crit damage argument, which is going to be universally good. Now, I do want to give some honorable mentions, which one would go to Envoy 12, as she's really good for rank waves. Envoy 12 just gains additional ascension rate, meaning you will most likely fail your envoys less and get her more consistently. She also does have a built-in execute, where she executes anything underneath 3% HP, which is a good 10% aura, and then yeah, the rest of her spells are pretty good. She does a lot of damage. Absolutely amazing unit, in my opinion, if you can get her. So she's really good for rank waves and can be used in Nightmare as well as just being an awesome unit in general. The other one would be my darling here. So Voodoo 12 is very underappreciated unit, but it does bring a good level 12 perk, and with it being a 20% damage increase on the ultimate, as well as just the standard damage defense down aura. If you can play around this on bosses or like waves where you're really struggling, like pulling out a voodoo and having it ult a big clump of enemies, because this is AoE. If you're playing Nightmare and all 4 bosses are stacked on top of each other and you put a voodoo ult there, the increased damage taken is applied to every single boss. So she's definitely like an honorable mention for me. And the same goes for Necro, but the Necro one is more so, I would say it's more so just economy focused. But if you are needing more silver because your safe is lacking or you're getting a lot of egos in a nightmare or ranked run, Necro can definitely help balance that out, especially if it's 12 with it gaining the 50% increase. Um, and then apart from that, my last honorable mention would go for the Rat, also known as Flash. He has a really niche use with him being the one of like the only burst damage units that we have, and he's also especially good in no mana games in ranked or when you're trying to do some nightmare speedruns and stuff like that. But I personally do not recommend running him in your general games unless you're comfortable with the playstyle and have invested resources into the unit. Uh, Doing any of the 4 to 12 before doing your second or your second, third, and fourth 15s does also make sense depending on how consistent your nightmare runs are and on your current collectible levels and if you mostly play ranked or nightmare. Like for example, I did two 15s and then I decided to get my voodoo up and like other stuff I had turtle from before. I decided to get my envoy up because I can consistently clear nightmare with what I have at the moment. So I just decided I want to have some fun. I want to try some stuff out. So I did voodoo and all of that. So it is definitely a valid call to make if you can consistently clear because it will increase your crit damage. So technically, even though you're doing something else, you are still gaining damage. Um, I want to also mention that you can do the other units to 15 if you're not wanting to do the 12s for crit damage because you feel like you're in a good spot or just prefer other stuff. Other good 15s would include Croc and Envoy, as they do greatly benefit from the scaling gain from the extra levels. Sword Spirit can also make sense for the extra attack speed. For the percent health hits in ranked or nightmare bosses. And then yeah, I mean, when you reach that point in the game where you have your cat 15, or your like all the 12s we've talked about, and you can clear nightmare. At the moment, there isn't anything else necessarily for us to do in the game because the new game mode is not released yet. So yeah, you kind of just preference. Like if you want to do if you get to this stage and you feel like, you know what, my economy is usually fine. I don't want to do the necessarily most optimal thing. I want to do Envoy 15 or, whatever. Like that is completely fine. At the end of the day, you should enjoy the game. Most of these units do actually have a use, unless you leveling Scarlet Scythe. Please don't do that. Most of these units do have a use. So you don't necessarily have to follow the order that I've given you. I just figured I'll cover my thought process on what's good at what stage of the game, and then yeah, just try and help answer some of the questions that I do get on the daily basis. But with that being said, I think that about wraps up the video. So if you guys do have any other questions, same as always, feel free to ask in the comments. Send me a message on Discord or if you see me in game, and have a good one.